Mohammed has reiterated that the implementation of the Treasury single account helped to avert the country's imminent collapse and stem the tide of corruption that had plagued the handling of public finances. Deremi Atanda is Executive Director at SystemSpecs, and he joins us now to share more insight on this. Deremi, it's great to have you here in studio with us. So it's interesting that your company, SystemSpecs, is the company that invented the software that runs the TSA payment technology. So, of course, you're very much involved in this process. So let's get a sense of the role that your company has played in the implementation of the TSA policy over the past 5 years.
Thank you very much, Didi. SystemSpecs is a software firm, and we've been around for about 24 years. Remita's been around for about 10, 11 years with a view to revolutionize payments in Nigeria. We're an entirely 100% Nigerian firm. We're all Nigerians and we're based in Nigeria. Somewhere along the line, the country wanted to implement a fiscal policy that required the support of technology, payment technology, and we got onto the scene. And we proved we could deliver, and this was in 2011. And that actually marked the start of our involvement with a significant national initiative. And Remita is the name of the platform, the payment platform, and simply put, Remita just makes receiving and making payments extremely easy through the aggregation of all possible channels of payments and collections. Revolutionary in its sense, considering it's the first time that's happening in this clime, and more importantly, because it's directly connected with the central bank, I mean the equivalent of Reserve Bank in the US and other countries. And the evolution that brought Remita into the picture was quite extensive in terms of payment technology. It was the first time also that you could have gross payments, bulk payments, and retail payments of government and the private sector happening on a single platform. So by way of introduction, that was essentially what happened.
And the economists identified the TSA as the most significant achievement of the current administration. And when you look at the numbers, the government has recouped 3 trillion naira through the implementation of this software. So why do you think that this software has been so successful, and what is it that prevented us from doing this, years ago?
Well, that's quite interesting, and it's actually very humbling to be associated, our firm associated with this. Many people aren't even aware the attempts by the federal government to implement TSA started around 2004, and we never got it off the ground until 2012. And we came into the picture just in 2011 when technology was being sought to address this. At some point, the central bank had attempted to defer the implementation because they were still searching for technology to make it happen. And we appeared on the scene. And like I said earlier, the Treasury Single Account Initiative is just a fiscal measure of any country managing its cash assets, effective cash assets. That there are other derived benefits are just a function of the consequences of the introduction of technology in business and in governance. And talking about the amount that's been recouped, it's not as if money had never been in the economy. It's not as if there were no bank accounts. At the last count, what we learned was there were about 17,000 different bank accounts being managed by federal government agencies. What technology has simply done, Remita, is make it possible for all funds of government to have a flow and a trace and an audit. More importantly, at any point in time, government can account for its entire cash assets, irrespective of the number of MDAs, irrespective of whether they are inflows or outflows for any service whatsoever. So TSA, riding on Remita technology platform, just gives government effective control over its cash assets, and that's quite significant in terms of fiscal policies and management of the economy.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that this process, the whole idea of a TSA started in 2004. I actually hear that there was a foreign company that tried to do this, and it didn't quite work out. So it's refreshing to see a local business, obviously, in this space. But I want to know, what does it take to run this type of national system? I mean, what happens in the background?
Wow. Well, you want to know the people who are sleepless and the technology that powers the entire thing. Okay. SystemSpecs is a firm. We're about 200 people. We've got offices in Lagos and in Abuja. And like I said, over 24 years, we've just invested in innovation. So to a large extent, we're Nigeria's foremost software house, even though we don't have a signboard. And what happens at the background is that we've put together innovative technology that first and foremost looks at the local environment of business and addresses the dynamics in a peculiar way that makes it happen. we've gone into partnership with quite a number of other players in the financial ecosystem. So Remita as a technology is connected to all the banks, all the commercial banks. Remita is connected to over 400 microfinance banks, meaning we're taking the issue of financial inclusion very much seriously by going to the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Remita is also integrated with switches, national switches. Switches in Nigeria. Remita is also integrated with mobile payment schemes. And to a large extent, because we run a cash economy, Remita has provided an opportunity for you to be able to record cash transactions electronically at the point of transaction. So at the back of this, you've got innovation, you've got technology, you've got programmers, you've got people who have an eye on looking at the business and the dynamics of partnering with other players in the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so that's what makes Remita quite unique, and that's what gives it the power to be able to run such a national thing. Mm-hmm. At the onset, not many people give this a chance of success.
Yeah.
But we were just driven by the challenge. We're in the tech space to say, if something is this big, we should be able to give it our best. And so it's quite gratifying to know that down the line.
Yeah. I think we should point out, though, that, your company has faced a lot of challenges in regards to this project, especially in regards to your commercial arrangement with the central bank. And we all saw that, play out on television a few months ago. So can you tell us what has happened so far?
Well, what happened, like I said, not many people gave this a chance to succeed. Eventually, when it succeeded, it commanded attention, because for the first time, people were hearing that government could account for trillions. Mm-hmm. People began to find out that MDs and ministries didn't need to write checks anymore. Mm-hmm. People were getting paid over the weekend, things they were not used to. Mm-hmm. And so this began to command some significant attention. And what then happened was people began to look at the dynamics of the transaction. Mm-hmm. And it was realized there was a contract in place, a valid contract, that had commercial terms that were valid, comparable to others anywhere in the world, mm-hmm. and even more so, mm-hmm. better in some instances than what was happening. Yeah. For instance, before the 1% fee was agreed, there were collection schemes for different MDAs that were as much as 10%. Mm-hmm. Many people were not aware because these were private arrangements. Government set out to consolidate all of the fees to say 1%. Irrespective of the nature of transactions happening for the revenue collections. And so, because people were not very familiar with the dynamics of the transaction, they were counting the bins to say, 1% translates to this, without comparing what was government losing before now. By the way, many times government was borrowing its own money at 15% through treasury bills. Yeah. But it was difficult for people to put all of these things together. And the 1% was also falsely assumed to be coming to SystemSpecs because we were providing the technology. Mm-hmm. The 1% was being shared between the central bank, SystemSpecs providing technology, all the 20 commercial banks, and other people within the financial ecosystem who had one thing or the other. Mm-hmm. But because this wasn't fully understood, there was an uproar. But surprisingly, you'll see that the noise is no longer about the fees, because everybody has come to recognize and realize that this.
Have you been paid now? Because I heard that you were asked to give a refund.
Right. At that point, because people were just not so clear about it, we decided not to be obscured by that, to make sure TSA doesn't fail. Mm-hmm. It will have been a colossal failure, if on account of commercials, the country was grounded. So we took a decision to say commercials can always be sorted out, but a window to transform the national economy, if you miss that window, it could be very significant. And so we took a position to say, we will not allow commercials to distract us. Mm-hmm. As I speak, the resolution of the commercials are almost concluded. We have not been paid. It's been tough. Mm-hmm. It's been torturous. Mm-hmm. But we believe in this country. Mm-hmm. We are stakeholders in this country. And we know that as many more people come to realize the benefits of TSA and the potentials of stimulating the economy and further driving financial inclusion, this will be brought to a close. Yeah.
I want to talk about the message that this passes on to local businesses who want to, go into business with the government, and also even foreign businesses, because, when they look at, what's happened in this case, what should the government be doing to review its ICT policy to create a more enabling environment for ICT players to thrive?
Well, I think that's a double-barrel question. The first thing is the ease of doing business. The second thing is government policies. To us, and that was one of the challenges we took on, we are the vantage point in industry as a leader of the software industry. And we took it on to say, let's take this on for the sake of other IT entrepreneurs coming behind. it's not been, I can tell it's not been easy going ahead without being paid for 16 months, by the way, and still forging ahead. But we know that once this is sorted out for once, it charts the path for others coming behind us. The second bit of it, and you probably are very familiar with the Ease of Doing Business Index, that talks about how, what gives people confidence to want to do business. This is another challenge we've taken on, we've decided to take on, to say, once you clear the barrier of people not understanding the bit about the knowledge economy and how government policies can interface with that, once and for all you can remove that veil and make it easier for others who want to do that. When we started business, people found it strange to talk about software because they wanted to see a piece of software. Software is an intangible, it's a knowledge economy. And so today, our own message is people should believe that the government means well. There may be dearth of information. There still may be a challenge with connecting the place of IT with governance and national economic policy, but we need to begin to seriously look at that. And I'm glad the current Minister of Communication, as the path charted already by the former Minister of Technology, and the things are being put in place. The industry bodies are also getting to be better structured, and we're just very hopeful. Now Nigeria is out of oil. Tech is the next thing. And we're very hopeful.
Now, just a very, very quick question. If you were asked to do this again, would you? Yes or no?
For this country, we'll do this over and over again.
Thank you so much for joining us in studio. Deremi Atanda, Executive Director at SystemSpecs. We have more for you on Power Lunch West Africa coming up right after this break, so stay with us.